Hello and welcome to Painting with Freehand Lines. Today's painting is a rather beautiful winter scene. It's actually on Westminster Bridge looking at the Houses of Parliament. And this painting is going to be very unusual because we will be using one of these, an electric sander. The sander will destroy the paper and the painting, but it will create something quite magical. Once the drawing has been outlined in pen, we can start the painting. Now, as this is going to be a winter scene, and we're going to rely on the snow and the blurry silhouette of the objects behind, we don't need to be too careful. So I'm using a wide brush, and I begin to paint the Houses of Parliament with a yellowy brown, yellow ochre and burnt umber mixed together to create this kind of really nice tanny brown. And I'm going to paint the Houses of Parliament in that colour. Just outline it, not too carefully. You may notice that I'm doing a little bit of snow, pre-snow by leaving the horizontal string courses where snow might sit, such as ledges, a little bit unpainted. That's just to help a little bit in the effect as we go further on. Once the background is done, we can move towards the bridge itself. The light stanchions are part of the integral kind of Westminster Bridge design, and they're in a green. The reason they're in a green is the Houses of Parliament seats are in green, so it reflects the seat of power of Parliament. Now, only part of that will be visible. The wind has blown snow, and the snow would sit on not just on the top ledges, but the side of the stanchions. So I'm being careful again to leave little white bits throughout that. And then when I move down to the bridge, I'm painting the actual holes in the balustrading, but not the top or the bottom. That is where the snow is sitting most. Now, snow itself will have different colours depending on what's around it. It quite often reflects the sky, so you'll notice a slight blue or purpley tinge to it, and that's really because of the dark sky above. In this case, we do have lamps, so the lamps will need to reflect their light, the yellow light, so I'm adding some yellow as well, and I'm being careful to dab that on. Snow is rarely a consistent top, it kind of undulates, so you get dabs of colour. So that's what I'm trying to build up at the bottom. Another thing you may notice, considering my earlier videos, I tend to start with the sky, but I'm not going to start with the sky today. I'm going to start with the main building because the sky is going to come in a bit later, and you'll see why. Now, in terms of light, I'm now beginning to add a little bit of lighter yellow to the face of the clock. That's because that is going to glow in the night sky, and I want to keep it light, so I'm dabbing a little bit of that paint off just to get it to the right level. And now the sky goes on. Remember, our technique is usually to go from lighter to darker tones. In this instance, the sky is actually darker than we usually do, so I'm putting this on after I've done the rest of the building. And once I've done the sky, I'm actually going to use the same colour to paint over the background buildings. Remember, in a snowy scene, background buildings start to take a further step backwards. They become more shadowy in their silhouette. So I'm trying to use this now not to create that silhouette. I left those white strips which were useful in creating snow. I'm now going to paint over them with the dark, and that's going to blend the building together with the snow. But the fact I'm actually painting over the sky and the building together, it will also blur the silhouette of the building into the background, which is going to be really important in getting that effect. You may notice in the way I've painted this that I'm being careful around the light. Light or electric light in watercolours is particularly tricky. It's much easier to paint with sunlight because it's omnidirectional, so you kind of need to paint backwards. You with watercolour, you don't start with a light colour, you start with the dark colours and you work to light. It's the light of the paper that is the white in this case, not like oils or acrylic. So in this case, I have to make everything else darker to make that light source light. And that's what I'm trying to do with the painting. You can kind of see now that what a light is, you're getting that feeling that it's actually emitting light, and that's because it's darker around it. And I'll keep working that up as I go through the painting. Now starting to further darken paintings. As you've seen through the processes of my painting videos, we do this process where we kind of put the base colour down and then we add shading and darkness on top of that. It is a simple act of layering. This is going to be slightly different. Here we're going to build up the layers in those dark processes, but the layout is going to be a bit more complex because everything is going to be in dark in the background. It's not going to be a case of picking out the light. So I'm adding more and more dark to the building and to the sky, constantly adding dark and moving towards that light in the middle. And the more dark I add around the edges, the more that light in the middle will shine. So getting the right balance is something you'll need to play with over time. Adding details now to try and pick up the slight shadows that you get from the lips of the snow as it hangs over the edge of the bridge. Cleaning up the clock face, adding slightly darker shadows to where the windows are in the building. Whilst this is a background building, we still want to get that depth into it that makes it feel like it's something in the background. And with the watercolour finished, it's straight to the sander. Now I'm going to be really punk rock with this. I'm just going to go in there, push it down and stripe it across. I'm going to go in a direction, diagonal direction, and I'm going to look at how, every time I sand, I'm going to take a look, blow off the dust from the paper and make sure it's the right kind of blur. It doesn't take much in terms of sanding, and it's really just about creating those fantastic little snow flurries. And in doing that, it's also going to blur the building behind because it's going to take off the paint by the surface of the paper and some of the ink as well. And then that creates this fantastic effect. And doesn't it look beautiful? And a great gift idea for Christmas. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next time.